Good morning and welcome to the Little Seal English podcast. My name is Ronan and this podcast is all about the beautiful English language idiom, which is the last minute. In this podcast, you're going to learn exactly how to use the last minute and, of course, a whole bunch of other English. Now, some things I need you to do before you listen. Number one, download my ebook, littlesealenglish.com. Download it right now. It is wonderful. It is free. You get a bonus workbook. If you're serious about learning English, you'll do it. Number two, buy me a freaking coffee. How about that? I am so needy. Am I right? I'd love for you to buy me a coffee. You can go to my Patreon page and buy me a single coffee. If you love my podcast, if you're interested in more, you could even buy me a coffee every month. That's all I'm asking for. Not a huge amount. That is entirely up to you. I'm trying to make something big here, so join me. Help me take over the world by buying me coffee. Apart from that, there's not much else to it. This podcast is focused on a very particular idiom with, of course, another real life example from me, Ronan. Long story short, check out my website, listen to this podcast, grab yourself a coffee, sit down, relax, and let's learn some freaking real life English, shall we? Good morning, my friends. What's happening? All right, this is a very quick episode of the Little Seal English podcast. And this episode is all about the phrase, the last minute. So, my name is Ronan, and I have a horrible tendency. I have a horrible habit to leave things to the last minute. For example, I would say 5 weeks ago, I got a letter in the mail. And that letter stated I need to renew my car insurance. So car insurance, incredibly important. It is actually illegal to drive a vehicle without car insurance. And it is also incredibly stupid to drive a vehicle without car insurance. So you need to renew your car insurance every single year in British Columbia. Now, unfortunately, there is no automatic renewal. If there was, life would be so much easier. Unfortunately, you have to go into the location and renew it in person. During the pandemic and all that jazz, they actually had online renewals, but for some freaking stupid reason, that does not exist anymore. Do not get me started on that, because I will talk about that shit all day. Anywho, I got a letter about 5 weeks ago saying my car insurance needs to be renewed by November 29th. So I said when I got the letter, oh, I better do that soon. You know, a week later goes past and I find the letter on my bed and I'm like, oh yeah, need to get that done. 2 weeks later pass and I come across the letter again and I look at it and I'm like, oh shit, I better get that done. I have 1 week left to renew my car insurance. And then today, on November 28th, I'm driving home. And all of a sudden I have a realization that, fuck, do I have car insurance or not? Like I couldn't remember, was it the 29th or was it the 28th? Have you ever had a situation like that? Where you're doing something and suddenly you remember something else that you had to do. I hate that feeling. I absolutely hate that feeling. And to be honest, it is 100% my own fault. Because I left renewing my car insurance until the last minute. Now, not literally, of course, not literally 11:59 p.m. But in this situation, I would say renewing my car insurance less than, I don't know, like a day before it expires is the last minute. So I'm driving home, having a great time. Work is over. I'm thinking today's going to be a great day. And suddenly it just pops into my head. And I'm like, fuck. Is my car insured? So immediately I pull off the road. Immediately I pull off the highway and I'm thinking, fuck. What happens if I crash my car right now? If I crash my car right now, am I insured or not? What happens if I hit somebody else? That means I'd have to be 100% liable for all the bills that would come of an accident. Now, thankfully, I got home, I ran upstairs, I found the letter, and it said November 29th. And I was like, well, whew, go Ronan. November 29th, you're cutting it fine, but by God, you did it. Cutting it fine. There's a beautiful idiom. You should use that idiom to cut it fine when somebody does something at the last minute, when somebody does something without a lot of time left. So to cut something fine means there's not a lot of room for error, not a lot of margin for error. And in this case here, I was absolutely cutting it fine because I had about, 13 hours before my car was uninsured. And I had 13 hours to get to the store and renew my car insurance at the last minute. So I cut it fine by waiting until November 28th to renew my car insurance, which expires on November 29th. When I was driving home, I realized that, I might not be insured right now. And as a result, I realized I had left it to the last minute. So to leave something to the last minute, what does it mean exactly? Well, it means that you wait and wait and wait until the actual deadline before you do something. Now, if you're like me and you're not very organized at times, or you don't think ahead too often, you might leave things to the last minute. For example, it could be checking in for a flight. You might leave that to the last minute. And if you do, you are tempting fate. You are really looking for something bad to happen, because when you leave things to the last minute, as I said earlier, you're cutting it fine. As I said earlier, you're not leaving a lot of room for error. Like, I actually went into town to renew the car insurance, and the first 2 or 3 places I went to were all fucking closed. And that's when I started to get worried a little bit. That's when I was thinking, maybe I shouldn't have left this to the last minute. Maybe I should have done this sooner. But look, it is what it is. So, because I left renewing my car insurance to the last minute, I had a mini heart attack when driving home. Because I left renewing my car insurance to the last minute, I was cutting it extremely fine. Because I left renewing my car insurance to the very, very, very last minute, I gave myself needless anxiety and stress. Now the question is, am I going to learn from this? Fuck no, I'm not. I'm going to continue leaving stuff to the last minute, and I'm going to continue getting stressed, and I'm going to continue getting anxiety when the deadline approaches. Now, how can you actually use this idiom for yourself? Well, if you go back and listen, you'll hear me using the past perfect. I had left it to the last minute. Or I left it to the last minute. We generally use it like that. Oh man, if I had left it to the last minute, blah, blah, blah. Why did I leave it to the last minute again? We often use this idiom to give advice to someone. Look guys, whatever you do, do not leave it to the last minute. This is way too big a project to fuck up. Please do not leave this to the last minute. Get your essays done early. We often do use it we use it for deadlines, but we often use it in academia. So you may not know this, but believe it or not, I've been to college, I've been to university, and I got a master's. And I'll be honest, when I did the master's, I did put myself under needless pressure by leaving stuff to the last minute. That means that I was given a deadline of, say, December 15th. And this could have been in September. And I'm thinking, December 15th, that is months away. I have so much time to get this shit done. That is not going to be an issue at all. However, I said the same thing in October, I said the same thing in November, and then suddenly it is December 10th, and I'm thinking, oh fuck, I have a deadline in 5 days and I haven't even started. I left my essay to the last minute. I left my project to the last minute, and now I'm here panicking. Are you the same as me? Are you the kind of person to leave things to the last minute? It could be packing for a vacation. That is the worst. I say that a lot. There's a lot of things that I classify as the worst. But let's be real, folks. If you're going on vacation and you leave packing to the last minute, you're likely to forget something. If you leave getting your medicine to the last minute, you might be screwed because the pharmacy could be closed. Similar to me today, having to go to 3 or 4 places before I could renew my car insurance. I'll be honest, at one point I was thinking I'm not going to get it done today and my wife is going to be pissed because I said I'd take care of it. I never said when I'd take care of it, I said I would take care of it, right? Anyways, long story short, to leave something to the last minute is when you wait until the deadline to do something. Do you know anybody that regularly, apart from me, leaves things to the last minute? Are you the kind of person to leave things to the last minute, or do you like to get your shit done well in advance with plenty of time to spare? Time to spare. God, there's a sentence I don't usually say. You know, if you have time to spare, it means you get something done earlier than you thought. You get something done sooner than you thought. And today, I renewed my car insurance without any time to spare, without a second to spare. Okay, I had about 7 hours to spare in total, but we would just say figuratively I had about 10 minutes to spare and I got my car insurance renewed. There was, I think, one assignment in my master's that I got finished about 4 weeks in advance. I felt great. I felt relaxed. I felt this is the correct way to do things. But also, I am the kind of person to work well under pressure. There's so many idioms from this one little podcast alone, this 100% unplanned podcast. If you work well under pressure, you are able to handle working to a very tight deadline. You're able to handle having a lot to do in a very short time. So my name is Ronan, and I do work incredibly well under pressure. I'm not saying I like it, I'm saying I work well under pressure. And that basically means that, I'll give you the perfect example of my master's again. I would leave things to the last minute. And then suddenly, on a Friday, I would make a plan. And I would have 2 essays due on Monday or Tuesday. And I would work my freaking ass off. I would work like 12 to 15 hour days just to get this essay done on time, or get these projects or these essays done on time. And I could have done it sooner. I could have done 2 hours a day for 3 weeks and not be under pressure. But no, for some stupid ass reason, do not ask me why, I generally leave things to the last minute. I get stressed, but I also get results. And that's the important part. Anyways, let's wrap this short, unplanned podcast up. My name is Ronan, and I often leave things to the last minute. For instance, today I left renewing my car insurance to the last minute. As a result of leaving my car insurance renewal to the last minute, I had a mini heart attack when I was driving home. Not literally, figuratively. I got home, I checked my insurance, and thankfully I had about 15 hours to spare before it expired. So I took a break and I relaxed at home. I watched an episode of something, and then I decided to get my shit together and walk into town. I really do not learn from my mistakes. At times. I learn from the important mistakes, but not mistakes like this, because all's well that ends well. When I was in college, I left a lot of assignments to the last minute, and it stressed me the fuck out. However, I also learned I work incredibly well under pressure. I work incredibly well when there's a deadline fast approaching. Are you the same as me? Do you handle pressure well? Do you work well under pressure? Do you leave things to the last minute? Can you think of a person you know who leaves things to the last minute? Applications. Oh, there's a great one. Passport applications. Document applications. So many people leave those to the last minute. Now, thankfully, in Ireland, we're able to renew our passports online. So if you do leave it to the last minute, you can still do it online. But I know some people and I know some countries where you are unable to do it online. And I've had some friends who don't check their passport until the last minute, maybe a day or two before their flight, and they realize, shit, my passport is going to expire when I'm on vacation. And so because they didn't check their passport until the last minute, they have to rush to the police station, the Garda station as we call it in Ireland, and they have to get an emergency passport, and it's a big hullabaloo. It is a lot of work. A hullabaloo is a period of time or an event that is just catastrophic. There's just so many moving parts. And so if you leave renewing your passport to the last minute, you're going to have a bad time, essentially. All right. I already said let's wrap it up, but let's actually wrap it up this time. My name is Ronan. I like, unfortunately, to leave things to the last minute. Because I do that, I create stress. Because I do that, I don't really have time to spare when it comes to deadlines. I usually like to cut it fine. If you arrive to the airport 10 minutes before your gate closes, you are cutting it fine, my friends. God, that's a great one. To cut something fine. That's when you just do it in the nick of time. That's when you complete something and you have like 10 seconds to spare, basically. You are flirting with failure and flirting with success. You are cutting it fine. So I like to cut it fine. I don't like to leave a lot of time to spare, as has been evident in this podcast. But at the end of the day, I get shit done. I got my essays done. I got my projects done. I got the car insurance renewed. Yes, I may have had a slight heart attack in the process, but like I said earlier, all is well that ends well. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to my rant about the last minute. Beautiful idiom. Don't be like me. Don't leave important things to the last minute. Bye. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is that. That is it for today. Like I have said many a time on this podcast, my name is Ronan. This is the Little Seal English Podcast. Please do me a favor. Download my ebook. It is online, littlesealenglish.com. If you really like it, if you enjoy this podcast, do me a favor. Buy me a coffee, buy me a beer, buy me a joint for all I care. I really don't care. I'm going to keep doing podcasts no matter what. But if I could have a coffee, that would be great. You can do that on my Patreon page. The link is in the description. Right now, I'm going to go chill out. I'm going to go drink some water. I'm probably going to avoid doing something and leave it to the last minute. But overall, I hope you're healthy. I hope you're happy. I hope you're having a freaking fantastic day. And yeah, I'll chat to you soon. Bye for now, friends.